What's up, y'all? Hey, just waiting for the other dude that's gonna jump on here to the live talk about home stealing home and stuff. Just waiting for him to jump on, then we'll get going. So, what up, y'all? Nah, fam. I don't know about all that, man. Just a guy. What up? What up, y'all? What's up, bro? All right, bet. Let's see. Let's see if my guy is in here yet. Once he gets in here, we will get going. Gonna be talking about stealing home, bro. Pumped about this. This dude was so good at this, man. Like I'm telling y'all, like it was freaking fun to watch, man. Like I was coaching third base one time, and he freaking he turned to me and said, "Hey, I'm about to go home." And I was like, "Whatever, man." And he made it. He made it standing up, man. Didn't even have to slide. Pretty freaking crazy. All right, let me see. No. There he is. All right, Kay, just request to be on. Let me see. There it is. I just invited you, Caleb. Hey, there
Hey,
he
can
is.
you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right.
There we go. What's up, man?
What is up? Just hanging out.
Hanging on, baby. So yeah, man. Just I was kind of telling everybody a little bit about you, a little bit, just the knack for stealing home and everything that goes with that, man. Just all the stories we have with this. So funny story. This is actually my little brother. I got two youngers. But this is my middle younger brother. He's a GOAT, man. One of my favorite baseball players ever. He's actually realistically probably the main reason I got this page. So, cause man, what he went through, man, motivated me a lot to learn and do all that stuff. So y'all wouldn't have to go through it anymore. So y'all can thank him for the page and all that stuff, man. So, but yeah, man, Kay, I just wanted to jump on here because, there was that. Really, what it was that Texas Tech game where that guy shoinked home, and the pitcher never even knew it. Just kind of reminded me of it, and we were kind of talking about it and stuff too. So yeah, I just wanted to throw it out there, and kind of like just, like what goes through your head, like when you're looking at, like kind of trying to figure out, hey, am I going to be able to take this? Like, what are some of the factors that you look at, right? When you're standing on third base, right? Or what is it, earlier in the game or whatever it was, right? What were some of the indicators? What were some of the things that you were like taking note of to, kind of be like, hey, like I might be able to take home on this guy. What were some of those things that led up to that?
Yeah, first off, thanks for having me on, and everybody, thanks for tuning in. I don't know that I have any proprietary secret to share, but I always loved running bases when I was growing up, playing ball from like the time I was 5 and 6 through travel ball and then into college, right? What I was thinking about, and I stole home probably somewhere in between 5 to 10 times in my entire baseball career. Most of that happened as I was an older player, though, so it wasn't like scrubby coach pitch or something where
Yeah.
Caleb was standing on third and swiping home. But by the time you get to third base on the base pass, you have a pretty good idea and feel for what kind of pitcher that you're up against, right? There's just telltale signs as you're running the bases if you're up against a pitcher that knows how to hold runners accountable, and there's not. So one would be the frequency with which he's trying to pick you off if you're on first and second, right? Are they running through a series of rotations, different timings as far as when the pitcher comes set and then start to deliver home, right? Those are the things that you can start to piece together as you're trying to calculate your overall, just like base running strategy. And by that, I mean, how aggressive am I going to be here? How big a lead do I feel like I can take? Is this guy really playing me close? Is he being aggressive? Are like the middle infielders, if I'm on second base, rotating in and rotating out, what's their relationship with this pitcher like? And you can just kind of tell, like when you've got this left-handed reliever or this relief pitcher that's pretty clueless, or maybe they're a little bit starstruck with the occasion, and a lot of their focus is zeroed in on what's going on between them and home plate, i.e. the batter, that's a pretty good indication that this could be a potential for you to swipe home. So what I'm looking for in that kind of a pitcher is just what I said, like how zeroed in on the batter are they when I'm on the other bases. Number two would be if I am lucky enough to get to third base in this situation, and I've had a couple looks and they've kind of checked that box off for me, like, they're not really holding me that accountable on the base path. They're not really paying much attention to me. They don't see me as a threat. What kind of a timing are they getting into? Have they been as bold as to like go into the windup now that I'm on third base? Are they continuing to pitch from the stretch? And so depending on what option they're going with there, it becomes a timing thing. So I had in my head, if this pitcher is taking 2 to 3 plus seconds from the time that he gets the sign from the catcher to when he comes like set, if he's in the stretch, and if he's in the windup, then it's just like you're going to be able to make 100%, like take it to the bank. But if he's in the stretch, from the time he gets the sign at the pitch from the catcher to the time he comes set, if that's like 2 or 3, 4 plus seconds, like that is enough time for me as not the fastest person on any team I played on to swipe home, right? So it's like, how accountable is he holding me on the base path? How aware of me is he? And then like, what's his timing when I'm on third base? Another factor I always considered was like the catcher, right? How in the moment and how in the routine of just catching that ball and throwing it back to the pitcher is this catcher? Because in order to steal like home, you have to have a pretty hefty lead, or at least I would start with a pretty hefty lead off of third base. And if you got a catcher that's like pretty savvy, they can backpick you pretty easily from that. So all the stars kind of have to align. But then if all those boxes are getting checked off from the pitcher, I'm looking at the catcher. How in the routine is he? Once he catches that pitch, is he looking down as he throws it back? Is he taking his time? Is he being all relaxed about it? If so, that's another box I've just checked, right? So if I've got the timing down to where I know the pitcher's taking basically 2 to 3 plus seconds from after the time he gets that sign and when he takes set, if the catcher is not paying attention to me, then it's on. Okay. From there, it's a matter of the timing and the balls to do it. So after all those boxes had been checked for me, what I did was started to get an aggressive lead off of third base, right? If I have assessed that basically this could be a pitcher I could swipe home from, I'm gonna take a huge lead at least a couple of times and see, does that bother this guy? Is he taking a look at me now that my lead is probably 40 to 50 to 60% larger than it normally would be if I'm just messing around, not really caring about what I'm doing on third base? And if he doesn't notice me, then it's in the bag. And that would be when I would turn around to a coach or my brother Cameron and say, like, I can steal home on this guy, and I'm going to do it on this pitch. My routine, like we're baseball players, everybody loves the routine. I would always go on the third time. So I'd take a larger lead, probably a 40 to 50% extra worth of lead twice. And then on that third time, as soon as that pitcher gets the sign from the catcher, and like just like we're taught when we're stealing a base, like as soon as you see that front foot from the pitcher move towards home plate, that would be when you'd leave to steal first or second. Well, as soon as that pitcher gets the sign and makes his backward move to come set like this, that's when I'm going, because I know, like, if he doesn't see me, I've got at least 3 to 4 seconds. And if you got a pitcher that's not paying attention, like there may be some scenarios where like he notices you and you're 2 feet away from the plate. But if that timing is right and they're taking that 2 to 3 seconds plus, like you have a very, very high percentage chance, even if you are slow as molasses like I was, of being safe. So from there, it's just like, do you have the stones to take the risk, slide in head first and get an easy run for the team? So that would be like the mental gymnastics I'd be doing every time I was assessing if this was a good option or not.
Yeah, and I think being able to watch it from on the field and then watch it from afar too, right? It was like there's just something about it, because like very rarely, like somebody stealing home, that's not a play that you practice, right? So it puts a lot of pressure on the pitcher, it puts a lot of pressure on the catcher, right? And so if they've already kind of got to zone out, right, because they are, messing with whatever in their head, they're just doing different things, right? Like you are going to, a lot of times, just being able to put the pressure on them, you may even cause them to balk, right? Which is great because then like there's other runners on, there's other things like that. Like then it's even better, right? So I think that just like I think there's a sense that goes to this, right? Like you kind of talked about, but I think just understanding the feel of the game a little bit, because in my opinion, if more people would pay more attention, you could probably do it more often. People could do it more often because, like Caleb's being subtle, right? Like he was fast. I mean, he wasn't like 6'3" fast, but he was still fast, right? And he was game speed fast. And so, yeah, like it really just depends on the stones, right? That's what he calls it, having the stones to do it. But it's just like having it timed out, and all that stuff. Like to be honest, like it's so easy. He did it in a couple big moments too. Like he walked off one of his, like a championship game with it. Like they walked it off, they went home, right? And so like I think that's such a cool thing because like the pitcher and the catcher, right, everybody's like, we got to get the batter, I got to throw the strike. Like different things. Like I have to think about this, I have to think about that. Like, and like, I think that, it's super important, right? To be able to, like, you can take advantage of that big time. And Kay was always really, really good at that. And so, I don't think you ever got thrown out stealing home. Did you?
No.
Yeah.
I like my batting average. I think that was about 1,000.
Yeah.
Stealing home. And the bigger the moment, too, like the point that you made, I mean, the more that pitcher and the more that catcher are going to be absolutely locked in on, like, what's the count? What are we throwing next? Where are we throwing it? Like, what are this hitter's deficiencies and strengths? And especially if, like, bases juiced, maybe not 2 outs. I don't know if I ever stole home when there was 2 outs. But, like, the more high pressure that situation is, that actually bodes in your favor if you're thinking about, like, trying this out or wanting to do it, because the more zeroed in those two people, the pitcher and catcher, who need to be aware of you, are going to be on the batter and not on you.
Yeah, and if you think about it, right, as a catcher, right, like the first thing you're doing is throwing the ball back and looking for the next sign, right? Like throwing the ball back and thinking about what are we going to throw next, right? That's your first immediate thought, right? The pitcher's catching the ball, going back through everything of why they didn't like that pitch or why they did like that pitch or what they're going to do 3 pitches from now, what they're going to do 4 pitches from now. And they do all that stuff, right? All the while, our brain cannot handle doing 2 of those things actively at the same time, right? Like, I'm telling you, like I literally watched Caleb steal home a couple times when there wasn't even a throw. Like that Texas Tech freaking video I threw up on the story, like same kind of thing. Like the pitcher didn't even know. He had no clue, and he just ran through the bases, right? So, I think there's a lot of feel, right? And so, like, do you think, Kay, that the ability to steal home just started by what you picked up at third, or do you think it was like, like throughout your like if you're on first, getting the second, getting the third, but then like later in the game, do you think that kind of helped, like you have a feel for that? Like, do you think it was kind of like, so like it's not just you get to third, you count some timing, this, right, and then you go from there. There's kind of a feel to it, right? So it's kind of talk about that, like how important it is, like picking stuff up at first base, then second base, then third base, which really just kind of puts it all together.
Yeah, 100%. Like I was saying at the top, like the people who follow your page are smart enough when they got in the base pass to know if this pitcher is locked into what's going on the base pass, like enough to qualify if I can steal home or not. Like when I'm on first base, I'm trying to see, is he switching up timings on me from the time he comes set to the time he delivers, right? How many times is he trying to pick me off? How aware of like his surroundings is he? When I get to second base, how are those rotations between the middle infielders and the pitcher going? Is he actually trying to nab me on second base too? Is he taking a bunch of looks back at me, trying to hold me in place where I'm at? And some pitchers do an extremely good job of that because like that means they're well coached and they're able to stay aware of their surroundings and not be 100% locked in on just the hitter and that's it. And some pitchers aren't, whether it's like maturity or being too small for the big moment, or maybe they just aren't super focused that day. They just start to lose awareness of their surroundings on the base path. And so like you start to get a feel for that when you're on first and second base, right? And ultimately when you're on third base, it like seeing those signs of, is he taking still a long time to come set? Is he super locked in on the batter? That's more of like a confirmation of everything you've already been observing when you're in the dugout, on first base, and on second base.
Yeah, and I think that's really good too. And I think that realistically, right, tangibly, guys, like this kind of thing is going to be more rampant. What he's talking about with the pitchers, with relief guys, right? Like late inning guys come in, throw smoke, spin, slider, just freaking like those are the kind of guys, right? That it's going to be easier per se on because they don't have to be as much focused on that, I guess. Just because it's just not the same, right? The mentality of a closer, the mentality of a late inning guy, a relief pitcher is different than a starting guy. And so like that's just the key, right? Is just having a feel, right, of what's going on in the game. Like it's one of those things where like I used to watch him, right, watch other things that were going on in the game, and that was contributing to him to be able to once he got to third base and he could get the timing, he could go, right? So it's one of those things that it's a cumulative building process, right? Like to my knowledge, he didn't ever steal home in the first inning, right? There was a lot of feel, there was a lot of, hey, this is what's going on. I got to get to know the catcher. I got to get to know this. Because really stealing home is not just something you flippantly do, right? Stealing home is a momentum changer, right? Like it just completely flips the game because the catcher feels kind of dumb, the pitcher feels kind of dumb, and then it can make this happen, right, in a good way. And so I think that, yeah, that's where it starts, right? Is like all the time. You know, just there's no formula that you plug in and then you're going to be able to steal home 10 times. It doesn't work like that, right? Just how we talk about like everything that we talk about, right? It's like, okay, take what's being said and then put it inside of you and then spit it out, right? So I think that's one of the biggest keys, right? About what Caleb is saying, right? Is like, okay, learn how to process, learn how to see this, right? Because like I remember, like there was never a point where I asked him, hey, how do you figure this out? I just always told him, if you think you can go, go. Like it was never like for me when I was coaching him, it was never like you don't have to ask. It was just if you think you can go, go. And I think that like there was one time he slid in between one of the dude's legs. The dude that was hitting, he slid in between his legs, right? And it was just it was crazy awesome, right, to watch and to be a part of. So I think that's just the big thing, right? I think that that's how we got to look at like stealing home or doing things with the game, right? So okay, what are some like tangible, like if people, you can't really practice this, right?
Yeah.
And I think what you're saying, right? And I think what you have said is really good in playing into that, right? But like, so if somebody wanted to grow in their ability to see this stuff, to get a feel for that, so they could then learn, move down the path of eventually being able to swipe it. What would that starting line look like, right? How would people, what's kind of a loose path of how to train yourself to start seeing stuff?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think similar to hitting, running the bases in a less complex way, but it's all contextual, right?
Yeah.
So, like, it starts in the dugout. Yeah, nice haircut. It starts by like taking a look at this pitcher and seeing what his timing is, seeing how he reacts to different situations, just like you would if you're a hitter. Like you scrap the crappy stuff from the situation. If you're pissed off that you struck out looking like for the third time today, you scrap that. But what you keep is the cold hard analysis of like the last time I was down 1-2 and 0-2, like he went soft away on me. So like I can keep that cold hard fact, but I'm going to scrap the rest. It's the same thing when you're running the bases, right? I can notice like when this guy gets behind in the account, he gets super locked in on the batter, and like he kind of loses some of the 360-degree observation of me and maybe the runner on third or second as well when he's down at the count. And so that's something that I can lock away in my mental inventory for later, right? For when I get to second base or to third base. And then as far as timing, that's always something that you should be taking inventory of your brain. Like how long from the time the pitcher gets his sign from the catcher to the time he takes the set here to the time he pitches, like what does that look like? And is he varying that? If he's not varying it, man, then like that's as straightforward as it comes. That's low-hanging fruit that we can pick off every single day. And so like when you're looking to become a better stealer of home, I think it starts by becoming a more intelligent and context-aware base runner first, right? And then I think you take all those context clues. How late in the game are we? What kind of a pitcher and catcher combo am I up against right now? What patterns have I observed that this like relief pitcher does in this specific scenario and in innings past, right? And when all those stars align, like you're kind of looking for disqualifiers, I think, when you're trying to steal home. And like, again, my entire career, I probably did this 5 to 10 times, right? So as I was on third base looking at, like, there were a ton of times where I was like, oh no, like this is just not going to work, because this catcher, I can see him eyeing me, like when I get this big lead, that's not going to work, right? And so you just keep that and log it for later, and like the next time you get to third base, you're going through that same checklist, like what's the context of how this pitcher has been when I was on first and second base? How long is his timing now that I'm on third base? What's the game situation, right? How high pressure and high stakes are we? Is he ahead or behind in the count? Like those are all things that you can and should be thinking about way before you get to third base. But definitely once you're on third base, you'll have a super informed understanding of what's going on. And like the more you do that and flex that mental model, the quicker that will all come to you, because you don't want to get picked off because you're trying to think about all these contextual clues either from the pitcher. And so that comes naturally, and it really is a progression of being able to think very quickly and on your feet when you're on the base pass, the more you do it. So that's what I would say, like, is like the first thing you can practice. Start logging those timings, start logging those habits from the pitcher, and then go through your own checklist in your head once you get to third base based on those signals that you've already seen.
Yeah, that's really good. I think that that just builds the muscle, like you said. I think that was a really good way to say it, right? And that's one of the things that we talk about too, right? Is like you've got to practice these things so it's natural, right? You can't be thinking about all of these things. Like none of what you were talking about was you were thinking about it, but it was crossing your mind, right? It wasn't like you weren't chopping it up, right? It was like, hey, I got to check this. Hey, no, okay, I can't do it. And so I think that, yeah, that's one of those things, right? We talk about all the time is you got to train so it's natural, right? You got to train your natural, so what naturally comes out is that, right? And you have to be intentional with how you train the natural, and how, because what you produce is what you know, right? And what you've trained your subconscious, what you've trained your body, that's what comes out, right? And yeah, that's exactly right. I just said it's a game within a game, 100%, right? 100% right. So like pushing yourself to get good and at playing the game within the game is huge, right? Because like, yeah, you can want to do this all the time, but if you don't, if you can't trust your brain, you're not going to act fast. Just like we talk about all the time with the hitting stuff, it's the same thing because the brain's involved, right? It's a physical act. Because a physical act is produced by thoughts, right? What we've ingrained, what we've talked about, all those different things, right, are produced from, right, our brain. They're produced from our thoughts because it's a physical act, right? So like that's why it's so cool and so good to hear it in this context, right? Because it's like, I got to train this and I got to do it a lot, because you're not going to be able to steal home tomorrow. You're going to have to discipline yourself, and you're going to have to try, and you're going to have to pick this up on first and second. You're going to have to pick this up. I used to be able to know whether, if there was a pass ball on ball 4, whether I could go to second. I could usually know that very quickly because I could tell the catcher because I caught too, right? And it's like, I know if I can go to second or not based on that cat right there, right? So it's just those small little idioms that just like that the game is made up with, right? And so like that's how you train this. Like that's that mentality that he's talking about, right? To him, it was just a switch that turned on because he had thought about it and done it so much to where it was like, now, hey, I got it. Let's go. We're going. Hey, I'm going right here. All right, sounds good, right? So I think that's the key part, right? Is training the natural, training the subconscious, like we talked about, the back of the brain that controls everything, right? Training that so you can trust it, right? So yeah, I think that's really good what you're saying, Kay. I think it's great insight, and yeah, because it's always about, right? It's not just about stealing home, right? It's about how we get there. So if we don't know how to get there, just like swings or home runs or what, great swing, great this, but if we don't know how they're producing that, then it doesn't really matter, right? So, man, I think that's great. I love hearing you talk about it. It's just it's a good thing, right? It's a rare trait that I don't think very many people have, man. So that's great insight, man. So yeah, I'll make sure to post this on the page so everybody can kind of see it too. I think this is really good for everybody just to kind of like go through it. Something you haven't heard before, right? But that's the thing. There's no bag of magic tricks. And so the ability to, just learn how somebody, listen to how somebody trained their brain, right? So they could produce the results that they want is a really good thing. So, okay, thanks, man. I appreciate you doing it and talking about it, and you're a stud, man. Thanks for sharing the wisdom and kind of helping some other people. So I'm sure we'll hear back on some guys shrinking home, and they'll go down your checklist and talk.
I hope we do. Send me that video. Thank you for having me. Happy to answer any other questions people have afterwards, and hopefully we get some awesome videos of people swiping home. Keep the legacy alive.
I'm game with that. I will absolutely do that. So if anybody has any questions, you can throw them out right now. If not, I'll probably jet. But yeah, man, feel free to, if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm sure Kay wouldn't mind, like, if you reach out to him to talk to him about it either. So, yeah, man, that's the whole deal, right? It's just learning how to produce the physical. It's not the physical, right? We can talk about the physical all day long, but we got to learn how to produce that physical, and that's the most important part. So, all right. Well, I don't see any questions, y'all. If y'all need anything else, want anything else, just let me know on the topic, and I'll get it to Caleb and see what his thoughts are. Get it to you, or you can reach out to him directly, I'm sure. So, so y'all have a great night, Caleb. I appreciate you, bro. We'll talk to everybody real soon.
Thanks, y'all. Peace.